Welcome to the Real Estate Sit Down presented by Double B Homes. This is Blair Berg, and I'm joined by good friend and colleague Ian Haug, who's going to tell us a little bit today about being a parent in the real estate industry. Ian, you want to give us a little bit of your background? When did you start doing real estate?
Absolutely, man. Yeah, thanks for having me. So really, my background, I started real estate, jumped into the industry about 6 years ago. But really, I've been around the real estate industry for pretty much my whole life. My mom was a real estate agent up in the Brainerd Lakes area where I grew up. And so I was about 21, 22 years old when I really started to seriously consider jumping into the real estate industry as a career. And so yeah, I've been doing it about 6 years. I've sold just short of about 40 million in volume, and later this year, I'm on track to pass that $50 million mark. So, um, yeah, about 6 years. That's where I'm at in my career, and yeah, I've been loving it ever since.
That's awesome. So, this is something I always ask agents when I'm talking to them. Do you have the degree remorse? Did you go to school like myself, get a degree, and then you're just not using it now?
Yeah, man. So I actually, went to college, went for about year and a half, 2 years, and that's probably the best way to summarize it.
Hmm.
Is I just went to college. I
Yeah.
really didn't do anything. I went there, had no idea what I wanted to do with my career. I was working on some undergraduate work, and yeah, I was about 21, 22 years old when I decided that college just wasn't for me. I really needed to take a step back, figure out exactly what I wanted to do with my life and yeah, when I was 21 years old when I dropped out, and that was when I really started to consider real estate as a full time career.
Yeah, I totally get that. And I think if it wasn't for like athletics, I probably would have never gotten through it.
Sure.
Um, but so taking a step, we step out of college. What got you thinking, hey, it's time for real estate?
Yeah, man. So, like I said, I mean, I was really introduced to it at an early age with my mom being a real estate agent. So I knew the industry a little bit, but the more I thought about it and the more I considered, what I truly loved and was passionate about. And, I look at myself and I'm an incredibly social person. And, I really have always had a passion for helping people. I coached basketball for a long time. I know you're a coach yourself as well. So that really kind of paralleled to the real estate industry when I was really looking to move forward in that direction. And so honestly, sales kind of seemed like a no brainer for me.
Mm.
And um, so, after having kind of a deeper conversation with my mom about it, doing some more research, like I said, I was about 22 years old when I finally got fully licensed, and I jumped in feet first and haven't looked back since.
No, I mean, it sounds like it's worked out for you. Obviously, we're on track to pass the 50 mil mark this year, which will be awesome. So I guess we'll get right into the meat of it. So you've been
Yeah,
in the industry for 6 years. I think your daughter's almost 2 years old. So,
year and a half. Yep.
so about 2 years now of being a dad in the industry. Right away, what was the biggest change right away? I mean, to your business model. I mean, now you're
Yeah.
talking to someone who has no experience in this. So,
Right. So, I mean, and I barely have any experience in it too, right? I'm a kind of a brand new parent. So this is still a huge learning curve for me. But really, I mean, everything changed from the moment my daughter Noah was born. And you know what? I think the biggest thing that changed for me was I had to look at myself and my business, and it was more of a motivation shift of the work I'm doing is no longer just for me and my wants and my needs. And so with that came a lot of restructuring. There came a lot of fine tuning my skills. Just continuing to work on being the professional that I want to be in this industry. Trying to be better every single day, and really, with my daughter being born, I mean, she's been my biggest motivation, and she's really just kind of given me a deeper drive to build my real estate business bigger. And but like I said, with that, I've really had to kind of take a step back and look at what I need to do tactically in order to achieve those goals.
yeah.
Right.
And I think it's interesting too, because when I started in real estate, I was a single guy.
Yeah.
It was just me. And the big mantra when I started was know your why. And my why was always, well, I want more money.
Right.
I want
Exactly.
as much money as I can get.
Exactly.
And then they're like, well, what about like family stuff? I'm like, well, I don't have a family, so I
Yep.
just want more money. And my answer was always money. And it was funny, I think as a young real estate agent, that was like I was almost jealous of people that had families that like, oh, well, I have to sell like a bunch to I was like, my family's gonna die. They're gonna have no food. Like it's all on me. So I'm like, oh well, yeah, I guess I just want more money. So
Right.
so it is awesome. I think when I talk to parents in real estate, they're always right away. Their kids are usually their biggest motivation, and I'm sure that gives you a lot driving force. I'm sure there's times you wake up in the morning like, ugh, I'd rather lay in bed for like another 2 hours, but you're like, nope, got to do it. Well, first of all, you got to get up. You had a kid. Second of all, it's
Exactly.
like, well, if I don't sell anything, then my kid doesn't have like back to school stuff. So
Right, exactly, man. And we work in an industry where you eat what you kill, right? It's 100% commission based. And so it's, looking at your business and saying, do I have enough to fulfill my life? At first, that's kind of the question. Like you said, it's like, I want more money because I want more money. I want more money because I want to travel with my wife. I want to continue to go out to eat and,
yeah,
probably, spend too much money on food and going out to the bars and doing whatever.
hmm
But, once you have your daughter, or your son or your child or whoever it is, it's you step back and you say, you know, what am I doing this for? Why am I working? It's no longer to fulfill my needs, like I said,
hmm
right? It's it's to build a bigger life and a better life for your loved ones.
and it's not like because we're talking about before you have a kid and stuff, and it's just you, or maybe just you and like your young married life, and
Yep,
you just need like right now money. Like
exactly.
you're talking about like going out for sushi, going out
Yep,
for drinks. It's like I just need money right now.
right.
But when you have a kid, I'm sure it's like you're looking forward to like someday I got to be able to afford college. I got to be able to afford someday. As a dad, you're probably thinking some way down the line, I'm gonna have to probably chip in for some of her wedding too. So, I
Absolutely.
mean, you're talking long term. You need money, so the right now money isn't gonna make it. So what do you think your biggest struggle was adjusting to that? And I think you touched on it a little bit, but
Yeah, absolutely. So really, and I think, and I've talked to a lot of parents about this, and I think that they would, a lot of people would agree, people in our industry that have children. I think it's a struggle every single day to work towards achieving that work-life balance,
mhm,
right? And um, it's really easy to let your business totally take over, especially when you have that big why
mhm,
of this little human that completely and fully depends on you,
yeah,
right? And we go back to the goal setting that you have as kind of an individual, or maybe it's just you and a spouse. And yeah, I mean, I look at my specific goals, and it was, we want to buy an investment property, we want to buy our own house, we want to, you know XYZ. It was usually, one or two goals. But you're right, now it's looking at that and saying, oh, I have college to pay for, I have a wedding to pay for. I want to give my daughter, you want to give her the world,
yeah,
right? You want to take her on vacations. You want to give her, a better life than you have. You want to continue to go out to eat
mhm,
and show her what life's about. All of that stuff costs money. And so the biggest struggle is working as hard as you possibly can to achieve those goals while still maintaining that balance and being present in your family's life. It's
mhm,
it's really hyper focusing on how can I be be present with my daughter, be present with my wife, and still achieve all these goals.
yeah.
Right.
And it's kind of cool you touched on building your real estate portfolio too, because then you're talking about building generational wealth. I mean, if
Yeah.
you're buying and holding, I mean, this is someday when your daughter's grown up, that property could be paid off, and now it's part of her retirement plan. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's something she can inherit, and that's just monthly income, which would be great.
Absolutely.
So, what do you do to keep a good work life balance?
Yeah. So it's a lot of course correction, I would say, but you know, it really is. I would say the biggest thing that you can do to work towards achieving that work life balance is time blocking your schedule.
Mhm.
But that means time blocking everything, right? It's time blocking, of course, your lead gen, your lead follow up, your appointments, your showings, et cetera. But then on top of that, it's time blocking the time to be with your family that we talked about too, to make sure that, you're still present in your loved ones' lives while still working hard, right? So it's time blocking dinner. And I think the biggest one of the biggest struggles that a lot of parents have is, and we see it all the time too, and I've had this conversation a lot, where we do time block, but as you know, in the real estate industry, when you set a schedule, it's pretty easy to deviate from.
Yeah.
Something comes up, you don't make your phone call. Something comes up, you reschedule a showing and you push it later in the night, which means you're going to miss dinner with your family, whatever it is, right? So it really comes down to fiercely protecting your time. And if you do have to deviate from your schedule, I think one of the biggest tools that anybody can use that is maybe struggling with that work life balance is setting time aside to really reevaluate your schedule too, saying, you know something came up and so I missed my lead gen this morning. And it's not saying I'm going to forget about it and move on from that and I'll lead gen tomorrow. It's saying, okay, where can I put this in my schedule tomorrow or the next day where I can make up for that?
Hmm.
And I think it's the same thing, if you miss something with your family, it's getting that back on the books, because things come up in both directions, right?
Hmm.
Things come up in work, things come up in life, but then it's I think where, and I know I struggled with it right away in the beginning too, is where something would come up and I wouldn't make up for it,
Yeah.
right? It's just kind of continuing to plug away with your schedule. It's continuing to push forward onto whatever your next task is,
Hmm.
but not making up for that. And I think that's where your work life balance can really fall out of whack.
No, and I think and it's funny too because I kind of had to chuckle because when you're giving an example of the one thing that gets kind of overridden, lead gen, that's usually my first thing to go.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and it's
We're real estate agents. Of
yeah, I was
course it
gonna say
is,
lead
right?
gen's usually like, oh, you want to do a showing now? That's fine. I'm done with lead
Exactly.
gen for today.
Let me push it aside.
Exactly. So yeah, of course, that's like the first thing to go, and I'm probably not the best at actually getting it back on the schedule, but I think that's something any agent can take away. Time blocking, parent or not. I think time blocking is huge. I know that there are people on the fence of, oh, to be successful, you have to wake up at like 5 in the morning or blah blah blah. I'm not that committed to it. I am trying to wake up earlier myself because I do think I am more productive, but I'm not one of like the hustle culture guys. It's like you have to wake up. If
Right.
your schedule works otherwise, it doesn't matter. It just does work for me. But if I start that time block, the gym comes first at like 6 o'clock in the morning, time block on top of that, I think I completely saves my day from being derailed.
Yeah.
Because if you go in with no plan, your day is just going to pull you in a million different directions. If you have a time block, you're actually in control of your schedule, which for newer agents, I think is rare. I think you feel like you have
Absolutely.
no control of your schedule, which is kind of funny because when you get into real estate, I think a lot of people get into it so they can control their schedule, and
Absolutely.
then it ends
Right.
up being the opposite.
Yep. They get into
So,
it for the flexibility, and it's
and then they're
usually the
like, "What
opposite.
flexibility? I'm
Yep.
working more than I was." So, yeah, even like I think at me in my stage of life, I try to like I'm on my phone all day, whether it's this kind of stuff or if I'm doing regular income producing activities.
Yep.
I try to time block so that as soon as my significant other gets home from work, she's like, I'm done. Unless I have negotiations to do or showings, I'm kind of done. I try to have it done. So
Right.
it's like my night is now free. Unless I've booked appointments or whatever, then she totally gets that too.
Yep.
But then I have that time. And then I'm even trying to, right now, my phone goes on Do Not Disturb at 9 p.m. And I'm kind of trying to bump that up to 8
Sure.
as we get into spring. But I know it's kind of like a dream because I think you're going to start negotiating more deals here. And that, admittedly, I'll let kind of steamroll my
Well,
nighttime.
yeah,
But
this is exactly what we're talking about though, right? Where it's a constant struggle where I think, you talked about when you first join the real estate industry, you do it for the flexibility, but the only flexibility you really have is you have the ability to put appointments where you would like them in your schedule.
yeah,
But as you become more established, you know, you really lose a lot of time during the day.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And so you're 100% right where, if, and it totally depends on your goals, where if, being completely turned off at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night is what's most important to you. And, so you can spend that time with your significant other. I mean, that's something that it's a great goal to work towards, and it's a great tool to use to have that in your schedule blocked off, saying I'm done for the day, so I can be 100% tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think there are a ton of agents in our industry that are part of like the hustle culture,
Yeah.
and they're working before the sun comes up and they're still
Wake up at
working.
3 a.m.,
Yeah.
read for 30 minutes, ice bath after that.
Yeah. And they're working after the sun goes down. I think we've had
Right.
conversations too where it's like, to me, that kind of just shows me you're maybe not a master of your own schedule.
Yeah.
Because I think if you're prioritizing your time, I think there is only so much work you can get done in a day. And maybe people would want to argue with me on that. But I do think you probably hit a point in really what are you getting done past 9 o'clock if you time block correctly during the day
Yeah.
where you had time to, write deals and all that kind of stuff. But moving on,
Sure.
what surprises, if any, did you have as being the new dad?
Yeah. I think the biggest surprise was it was definitely the guilt that I felt being away from my daughter. So, like we talked about, once you really do establish yourself in the industry and um, you start doing higher volume throughout your calendar year, your schedule can really consume your work schedule can really consume your day. So, I am thankful that I have an amazing wife that gets to be at home with our daughter and take care of her, and that gives me a lot of peace of mind. But it's really hard for me some days to walk out the door, go to work, do what I'm supposed to do, but know that I'm, maybe missing out on some things with my daughter. Um, so I think that guilt was definitely the biggest surprise. But she's also, why I do
Yeah.
what I do. So, that helps ease that guilt a little bit, but
Yeah.
that's something I'm definitely still working on and still struggling with. Um, yeah, it's hard.
And that totally makes sense too. And I think we had a conversation about the other day where, again, I know our schedules can be very busy and that's why it's important you time block. But I think we work a unique industry where if you need to find the time, you can. I
Yeah.
think we were talking about how we're like, how do regular 9 to 5 people take their kids to the doctor? How do they do all this other stuff? And they just must be just burning through the PTO all the
Right.
time.
Right, exactly.
So, like, fortunately for us, yeah, like, does it suck if we miss out on some lead gen because you have to take some of the doctor? I guess, but it's for her health, and
Of course,
you'll
yeah.
get another day of lead gen. And I think that's exactly what we're talking about is prioritizing work life balance.
Yep,
Obviously, your family's health comes first.
of
So it's like
course.
you're not stuck at a 9 to 5. Like, "Oh, I'm out of PTO. How am I going to get my kid to the doctor?"
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you're totally right, where I am incredibly grateful for what real estate has provided for me and my family in so many ways, where I do look at a lot of people that, work 9 to 5 like you said, and they have to take their PTO, they have to, scheduling is a nightmare. Daycare is, a whole different animal in itself, which is something that I don't, we don't personally deal with. And it's a huge it's a huge it's a huge piece of I would say that it's a reason I'm incredibly grateful for real estate.
yeah,
You
for
know,
sure.
um, yeah, I don't take that for granted.
And then, so what would you want new dads to know, or like
Yeah,
what is maybe the stuff you get asked about the most, or like they're not even thinking about yet?
yeah, 100%. So I think, and we probably touched on a few of these points, but as new parents, we really do put so much pressure on ourselves, and especially in this industry where it is 100% commission based, right? And I don't think that's just me. I think that's probably everybody, right?
Yeah,
Every parent.
I have a bunch of friends that like have just straight up told me like I couldn't do that.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
they're like that's too scary.
It's hard and it is scary and days are hard sometimes. And
Yeah,
there's days where, you're swearing in your car,
yeah,
and you know, days can be long and it gets tough sometimes. But um, for all those new parents, I think I guess one thing that I wrote down, it's something that's always really stuck with me, and it's something I always keep in my head as I go to work and as I come home to be with my family. It's when I go to work with the intention of I go to work with the intention of being the best real estate professional that I can, right? So when I'm on, I'm giving 110%. I'm sticking to my schedule as best as I can. I am, you know, showing up. I'm on my A game when I'm in front of clients, whether it's a listing appoint or showings. My goal is to always give 110%
Mhm.
and be the best real estate professional I can be. But, as a parent and um, like we said in this industry where we really do have a high burnout rate, what we do is hard and it's time consuming and it's draining. And I honestly I think this is for anybody, that even people that go to work at a 9 to 5 job. You know, you hopefully give 110% of your job, but when you walk in the door of your own house, are you giving 110% there? Are you giving 110% to your daughter or to your son or to your spouse,
Mhm.
right? And so it's always my intention to be the best I can be in work. And when I walk in the door, I want to bring that same energy as soon as I get home. I don't want to walk through the door and be drained and be tired and, sit on the couch and be passive when I already missed, a lot of time with my daughter. So that's something I really keep in the back of my mind and try to be mindful of, really every day through my work schedule and as I go home, is just, bringing my A game to work and then doing that for my family as well.
Yeah, and I think obviously my stakes are a lot lower, obviously with no kids and no real commitments like that. But I do think I've made a conscious effort for that as well. Is just kind
Yeah.
of realizing like no one wants to be around you for like grumpy or like
Right.
if you're bringing the baggage home from your job anyways,
Absolutely.
and it is just about reminding yourself like during my work hours, I'm doing everything that I can. So I know there's a tipping point. I know it's going to be successful, whatever. If you have
Yeah.
one bad day, that doesn't mean your career's over.
Yeah.
So being, the asshole at home doesn't help anything. So I think I
Right.
am like, as soon as, like I said, I try to time block so that when she gets home, I'm like, how's your day? Like,
Yeah.
what happened in your day? What like noteworthy thing happened in your day that we can talk about? And I kind of try and like turn it off unless I
Absolutely.
have things that kind of spill over a little bit, or like I said, I got showing you something. But
Yeah. I mean,
being
we all fall
present,
short,
yeah,
right?
but being present in like your social life, because
Yeah.
again, just like when you're working and like we were talking about earlier, like putting out content or lead gen, if you're making calls and stuff, no one really gives a shit.
Right.
And it's the same thing in your social life. It's like if you had a bad day at work, no one really gives a shit.
Right.
Just do what you can to shed that, because it's not being a grump about it later is not going to help. It's
Of
not going to
course.
bring that back. If you're like moping around about it, like you said, that's not going to change the day that you had. All you can do is make up like and have a good time with your family. So,
Absolutely.
is there anything else you think like we didn't cover?
I don't think so. I think, I mean, yeah, the last that I wrote down this kind of these three bullet points. I guess the biggest advice I would give to new parents. I'm no expert. There's a lot of course correction with my schedule, and as I work towards achieving that
Yeah.
balance that we have talked about this whole podcast. But I think my three biggest pieces of advice are, like we said, time block everything, protect your schedule, and then not only that, but when you deviate from your schedule, I mean, what I do is I have actually in my schedule 10 minutes at night that is set aside to reevaluate my schedule for the following day. So if I
Yep.
miss something that day, I'm reevaluating that schedule. So it's so time blocking, protecting your schedule, definitely the biggest piece of advice. And then the other two that I have is give 110% at home, just like you hopefully do at work. And then three is to just give yourself some grace and allow yourself some time to figure out this massive transition that you've gone through in life, trying to uh, take care of this new little baby that you brought into the world when you
Yeah.
maybe don't have any idea what you're doing, like me.
Yeah. No, and that makes a ton of sense. Well, this has been fun, man. I mean, and I
Yeah.
don't even have kids, so I can see where a bunch of people find this helpful. I think there's also some tidbits in there for everybody. So, thanks for coming on.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.